Honestly, when it comes to anger, there's really three things that you got to do. Literally, breathe, transfer, and release. Welcome back, everybody, to the Just and No podcast, where we make knowledge your strongest weapon.
Welcome back, folks. As always, it's a pleasure to have you here. We're excited for today. I think we got a good topic to discuss, as you already know. Your boy Nas, your boy Just over there. Let's get this on the road.
Yeah, so I mean, going through life, we all have emotions. We all have some type of emotions towards the most things that we do in our lives. Whether us being sad, whether us being angry, whether us being excited to go do something, it's always put behind emotions. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to control your emotions when you're going through life. And for the first iteration of this show, we're going to be talking about anger because anger is something that most people deal with on a daily or weekly basis.
Yeah, anger is one of the most strongest, most prevalent emotions that you have inside of you. And what I mean by that is it could direct your behavior so significantly. You know, excitement is cool, but it's probably not going to dictate too much of your behavior. There's other emotions that are fleeting. Anger seems to have, it's like the devil's work. It seems to have the strongest hold on our behavior and the strongest impact on how we choose to proceed in whatever situation, whatever current state we're in. And I think it's important really and I can start with myself by saying this, is it's important to master anger, knowing how to display the anger, when to let it out, when to let it influence you. At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to ignore it and just put it behind you. That's like some Buddhist, controlled like monk shit. Like we're not all on that level.
Of
You know what I'm
course.
saying? Like nobody's saying suppress your anger and just, let it, brush everything off. No, you're entitled to feel your emotions. And all I'm trying to say is it's important to be able to determine when and how and where to let that anger out.
Yeah, and with anger, you kind of want to, and with any emotion as such, probably not sadness though, but with anger, you want to learn how to transition it to something else, to something more positive. Like for me, when I'm angry, and I had to learn this over time, this is not something that, you learn overnight. This is more so going through your triggers, understanding, being aware of yourself and of those things, is that when I'm angry, instead of lashing out, instead of talking vulgar, instead of screaming or shouting in that moment, in that time, take a breath. Take a breath and then transfer that anger into something positive. So what I usually do is that, all right, say if I'm angry and something that's really bothering me, something that really I guess pisses me off, right? Say if I'm working that day, instead of me lashing out and showing that anger, I start becoming more professional when I'm angry. I start to not like show the emotion. I just go strictly by the book. That's how I transferred my anger. So usually I'm a joking around, playful kind of person. But when I'm angry, I get more serious. So I transfer my anger into seriousness, into more professionalism. So say if I'm in the office, instead of being that person that's more lenient or whatever have you, now I'm going strictly off the book when I'm angry. Now I'm still doing my job in a sense to where it's not like lashing out or whatever, right? But I'm transferring my anger to something else to make it productive.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you make, because I'm sure, and this is basically pure off assumption. It's based on assumptions, but I'm pretty confident when I say this, is there was a point in your life where you let anger, and this goes for me too, and I'm sure many other people,
Of course.
where we let anger take us from being in the right to being in the wrong, where you had a good reason to be angry, rightfully so. Unfortunately, A, B, and C took place, and then you use that anger to do something that you're going to regret, to hurt somebody that probably wasn't even involved in the cause of your anger. You know, to do things that probably shouldn't have been done, and it only further undermines your respectability as a person. So again, this is based off assumptions. And now you're using it to better yourself in work, or just you're just exploring and expressing that anger in a more controlled way, in a less volatile way, you know. And for me, I try to I'm a big proponent of when in moments of anger, remain silent, hold your tongue, hold your actions, delay your response, you know. And what I like to use, this is gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way probably, but what I like to use as an example is when we was in high school and you had an argument with anybody, male or female, no matter how heated, how serious the discussion was, majority of people in the midst of an argument, of a heated debate, heated interaction, you use the word relax. Like, yo, why don't you just relax, bro? Do you see how much more angry they get and why? It's because anger likes to be fed with more anger.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So once you kind of combat that anger, you see that they get a little bit more frustrated, whereas like they're confused that you're not fighting them with fighting words and with angry, you know, hurtful words and hurtful behavior. And it goes to show how anger will make you lose control of yourself. Because when all is said and done, when everything settles down, it's a great thing that you chose not to feed into that. And if you did feed into that, God knows how far it would have went.
Of course.
You know, so I'm a big believer, a big fan of, in the moments of anger, hold your tongue, delay your decision. There's something that you don't like, a discussion between husband and wife, business partner, father and son, mother and daughter, whatever, you know, the relationship is between you and person B. Delay your response, delay your course of action, hold your tongue, and wait for, you know, the little tempers to die down before you make a firm decision, before you give your actual response. Because, you know, in those moments of anger, you're not even really acting like your true self. The point that you're trying to reach, you're not going to really reach it effectively. You get what I'm saying? So I just like to hold my tongue, hold my behavior.
So what you said about, you know, delaying your anger and learning how to suppress your anger, that kind of actually got a little thought in my mind that of back then when I used to work at Wendy's, right? So I used to work the drive-thru. For anyone that ever worked fast food, you understand where I'm coming from for this. People do not play with their food or play about their food, right? When they're hungry, again, you're in your emotions. You want to eat so bad. This is controlling your emotions of anger and all that other stuff. So I had this customer, right? For some reason, I guess I didn't put something in his bag, or I was taking too long with something. I don't know what it was. But she was coming at me crazy over the actually it was a couple. You could hear both of them yelling over the intercom or whatever, right? And she's coming at me crazy. The husband's coming at me crazy. They're both talking crazy to me, blah, blah, blah. You can hear him on the headset. So I end up getting their food together, whatever have you. I'm sorry for the way that this happened. Blah, blah, blah. And I smiled. Instead of, you know, combating them with the same anger that they had towards me,
Yeah,
I smiled. Do you understand that they calmed everything down? But you could see the vein on their face of how angry they were. But that was from me being calm. And instead of showing anger to them, which would have fed us just going back and forth, I said it with a smile. I'm so sorry for whatever happened. Have a nice day, right? That just completely stopped their anger, and they just drove about their day. But controlling your anger to be able to not portray that energy that they want. Usually when people are angry and they're arguing and the person's not arguing back, just like how you said, that's not feeding into their anger, any normal person is going to stop arguing at some point, because they're like the bad person, because they're not getting the energy that they're putting out. So when you are angry, it's best to control it. It's best to control it. It's best to let it out somewhere else, especially not in professional setting, especially not at work. It's never professional to act upon your anger ever. Ever. It doesn't matter whether you're in the right, because once you act out on your anger as a professional person, you're always going to be perceived as the wrong person. It doesn't matter how or which way it started. Once you act out on your anger as a professional person, you are automatically going to be in the wrong.
Yeah, and just a little disclaimer. This was probably one of the biggest parts of like maturing, and it's a never-ending process. It's ongoing until the day you're not on this earth no more. You got to learn how to control your anger at 60, at 70, so on and so forth. None of this is easy, but this is definitely a point of emphasis when you're trying to figure out how to make the things that you want in life come gently, come properly. You want to bring peace to your life. You want to bring success, serenity. You want to bring, calmness. All those nice moods, those nice environments, those pleasant settings, pleasant mind spaces. Anger destroys all of that. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, I'm going to give you a perfect example. You're having a great day. It's 24 hours in a day, right? Let's say you're awake for 16 hours, 17 hours in the day. You're having a great day. Now, there was a 10-minute period where you experienced a high level of anger, a urge to whatever, fight, a urge to destroy, to hurt somebody with your words.
Mm-hmm.
Those 10 minutes, ask yourself this question. What was the most memorable part of that day, of that 17-hour day? And I promise you, the average answer is that 10 minutes of anger and frustration that we experienced. You ask us a week later after that day, what did we remember most about that day? The average person is going to speak about that. Why? Because it's an emotion that basically outweighs all other emotions. And you have to understand that, accept that, and learn to just try to control it and redirect it. Don't dismiss it. We're all allowed to feel our anger and to be bothered and rubbed the wrong way. That's fine. But just don't immediately respond with more anger. Don't feed into the person in front of you's level of frustration with more frustration. Either try to, bring down the level of anger or completely ignore it until further notice. And sometimes that might be later that day, a month, a year, whatever the case is. Don't destroy something over a few minutes of frustration. Don't put yourself in a position to get arrested, put yourself in a position to, burn a bridge that has been, great to have for the past few years and hopefully for the years to come. Don't do those. Don't make those long-lasting mistakes over little temporary moments of frustration and anger.
Yes. And for most people that are watching, you're probably asking yourself right now, what are some ways that I can revert my anger or learn to control my anger or vent some way about my anger? Okay, let me give you a timetable, right? If you're ever angry to the point where you want to hurt someone or lash out or whatever have you, learn how to transfer that energy, right? So in the meantime of whatever is making you angry, suppress it. Suppress it. Don't just suppress it and you're not going to get to release it. Just suppress it for now, right? Now, personally, what I do, and this is a good way because like I said, you transfer it to something productive. There's two ways that I let go of my anger. So one, I go work out, right? Whether that be running, whether that be weightlifting, whether that be boxing. Boxing is really good for letting out your anger because most people do want to fight when they're angry. So you let it out on the bag. And it's also being productive because you're getting a physical benefit from it. So whatever angers you within that week, within that day, let it out. Let out your frustrations through physical activity, right? And that'll be the best way for you to release your anger.
Yeah. Another point I would like to make is that in those moments of anger, it's so easy to let go of your tongue and to say things that some people might some people might relegate this type of behavior into showing your true colors, and I don't think that's necessarily accurate
Hmm.
because when you're angry, which is a very extreme emotion,
Yeah.
a heavy emotion, you're not necessarily saying things that are your true self. For example, if I have a fight with, a loved one, it doesn't have to be necessarily family, but a very close person in my life, and I say some hurtful words out of the out of anger,
Hmm.
it doesn't necessarily mean that this is how I perceive this person throughout our whole relationship, the timetable of our relationship. That's not necessarily accurate. But it's probably fair to say that those thoughts do cross my mind from time to time, even if they're not the nicest. Like, okay, you say something to, your brother, like, oh, you're this, you're that. And it's like, damn, that's how he always thinks of me. No, that's not necessarily accurate. But also, you can't fault the person on the receiving end of those harsh words to you can't fault them for feeling offended, because you guys are both in a moment of anger and you attacked them and it kind of got personal, or you just came out of nowhere with a perception of them or what you think of them or how you feel about them, whatever the case is. And later on, when everything calms down, without them even expressing how hurt they are by your words, you start telling yourself like, damn, I can't believe I really said that. One, I don't even mean that.
Hmm.
Two, like that was a little bit out of line.
Yeah.
Three, like I feel bad. Things like that. When those things start crossing your mind, it should be pretty obvious that express like holding your tongue in the moment of anger is a very important thing to do. Like, for example, you said you were speaking about the physical thing. I'm talking about the verbal aspect of it. Let it out physically somewhere else in the gym, whatever, run it off. I don't know, whatever other vice you have that releases your stress, your anger, do that. It's way more healthier than letting it out on the spot immediately, making rash decisions,
Of course.
impulsive decisions. And then the verbal aspect is hold your tongue because those little 5-10 minute, spans of anger that you have throughout your week, you don't want that to be hurtful for the other person for a span of years. Sting them with your words for a lifetime to come. You say something that's extremely out of line, that isn't even necessarily how you feel, what you view, how you view them as. You just said it out of anger, that's what anger does. It encourages you to be hurtful, to be damaging, to
Yeah.
create carnage.
And when you're angry, right, you're hurt. You're hurt about something. And most people want the opposite party of whatever made them angry to be hurt too. So that's why you say certain things that are hurtful, even though you may not mean it, because you just want to get some of that hurt that you have off of you. But you have to understand, and this is being emotionally intelligent, think the long term. Here we always think about our actions and what our actions may lead to. And when you're angry, you make the most rational decisions, which may feel good in the moment, but long term will affect you. So let's put in the sense of crimes, right? It's fair to say, and don't quote me on this because I don't have the current statistics on this.
I'm quoting him on this, by the way.
Um, a lot of crimes are committed, especially when it comes to hurting an opposite party, because the person was in an emotional state. Whether that be murder, whether that be domestic violence, whether that be maybe assault, road rage, all those things are in corpus of letting your anger, or let's not say, letting your emotions control you. So now this is to the viewers, and this is a person coming from a person that worked on their emotions, because I'm not perfect. I'm still working on it every single day. When you're angry, or when you're in your feelings, or your emotions are getting the best of you, ask yourself this question. Well, first breathe, take a breath, and then ask yourself, is what I'm about to do really worth it? Is what I'm angry about really worth the outcome? Think about the possible outcomes of what can happen if you lash out. And if you ask yourself that question and you say, yes, that's worth it in the long term, by all means, go ahead and act upon it, but be prepared for the consequences. But if you think about it and you don't think those long-term consequences are worth it, suppress your anger, release it in a productive way. Ask yourself that question every single time that you're angry, and you'll learn to build how did I say? Damn, I lost the train of my thought of what I was going to say. A tolerance. That's the word. A tolerance for things that could make you angry, right? And once you start building that tolerance, a lot of things wouldn't faze you anymore. And you'll be so high in tolerance when it comes to being angry that nothing really phases you. And if it does, it's not okay, I can't really change the outcome. It already happened. Let's move forward. That's what you're supposed to do with anger. When anger comes, it's like a storm. It comes, it rains a little bit, probably a lot, depending on the situation. And then it passes. And then once it passes, everything's back to normal. Now, when you act upon those anger, those rash decisions, that storm that you're in will always be that storm that you're going to be a part of. So when you're angry, be a part of that storm, hunker down, shelter, be calm. It's going to pass. The anger's going to pass. And then once it passes, you can relieve, exhale, and then go back about your business.
Yeah, I do like the one thing that you said that I think is really significant for anybody to take. If they don't want to take anything, just take this. That taking a breath and asking yourself that question. Honestly, I don't even think it's that important to really answer it. That's the next level. But the starting part, the starting steps, the baby steps of learning to control your anger, it starts with literally taking that pause. Just taking that pause. It doesn't matter what you decide, what conclusions you reach, what decisions you make in your head after that, but making that pause, taking that pause to just take one deep breath and then ask yourself that question. Even if you don't get an answer to that question, those 5 seconds of you delaying your response because of that anger might be able to save you from making a life-changing, a situation-changing, a long-term, creating long-term damage based off of your irrational, impulsive decision that you make in that moment of frustration. It might very well be that little 5-second span of, is it worth it? Without answering the is it worth it question, by the time you did that, you probably already calmed down like 80%.
That's facts.
And saved yourself from the consequences of acting out, of carrying out an action due to your anger. So this isn't no science project where you got to work on in yourself. It's not no crazy, it's not no crazy mind game. It's a very simple tactic of the next time you're angry, just try it. Don't knock it till you try it. The next time you're angry, and honestly, I feel like it's good to start with the people that you know are like really near and dear to you, where you're not going to necessarily like go all out on, even in time, a sibling, whatever, a loved one, not your parents. I'm not encouraging, not your parents, everybody else but your parents. Anyway, the next time your close friend, your best friend, whatever, before you curse them out, before you tell them you're A, B, and C, before you lower them or direct any harsh words to the person in front of you, they cause you to be angry. Take that deep breath, ask yourself that question, and then see how different your response is. If it's not any different, I'm sorry, you need more help. All right.
Yeah.
We can't help you no more. This is out of our hands. You need some more help. But I promise you, for the 99% majority of people, you take that 5 seconds off of the deep breath and asking yourself, is this worth it? Is this going to hurt me or help me? By the time you ask yourself that, that's it. Like you've already de-escalated the situation so much in your own head that whatever you do after that is probably going to be on such a smaller scale than what it originally would have been if you just off the rip respond with the full 100% of that anger that's built up inside of you.
Yeah. So honestly, when it comes to anger, there's really three things that you got to do. Literally, breathe, transfer, and release. That's all you have to do when it comes to anger. Breathe, transfer, and release. And that would literally help you towards controlling your emotion, which will be anger. So we're going to make a little transition here to sadness, depression. This is a lot of things that could be called for that kind of emotion, but let's wrap it up into a term of sadness. There's going to be those days that you're going to wake up not feeling the best. Sometimes is usually when you're probably sick, or sometimes when you're just tired of doing the same thing over and over again. There's going to be those times in your life, even I mean the times that people don't want to talk about, which is death too, within your family or in your close group of friends or whatever. It's going to be the time when you're sad about things, and it's completely different from anger. You won't lash out. I mean, I would hope not that sadness doesn't make you angry. That's kind of crazy. But besides the point, sadness makes you stop everything that you're doing, and it makes you dumb down.
Self-destructive.
Yes, do self-destructive things and just puts a halt to what you're going towards. With all emotions, you have to understand that you are going to be affected by it at some point in your life. You just have to learn how to work with it and learn how to achieve your goals and go towards the day with those emotions. So when it comes to sadness, and like I said, I don't want to make this all about me, but I'm just saying this about me because it relates more towards me, and hopefully somebody that's listening to this relates to what I'm saying. When I'm sad, I take the time out to actually sit down and go through the emotions. Go through the emotions, take a breath, just like how with anger. You take a breath, you understand, and then you talk to yourself a little bit. Like, I don't care what anybody says. You are your best motivator at the end of the day. So you may be talking to yourself in your head. We all do it. I don't care if somebody says you're crazy or not. You need to do it. You need to tell yourself that this is not the end. Every single time that I'm sad, every single time that I'm in a certain way mentally, when it pertains to sadness, I think of my life as a story. And I tell myself, do you really want it to end here? Do you really think that this is something that can stop you? I know, like, you just talk to yourself in third person, Justin. You know that you're not. This is not you. You might be sad in the moment, but let's pack it up. Let's take this and let's do something with this. Let this be a part of your story that you can refer to. Like, oh damn, I was sad that one day about this, and I thought that I was just gonna quit it all and just stop. But I just kept pushing through it, and that'll be a story that I tell to the masses that eventually that I will be able to reach. I tell myself that every single day. You always, when you're sad, gotta take one part of your life that you wake up every day for and put it in that moment of sadness, that moment of despair, and tell yourself, like, I gotta get through this. I got to get through this. And then usually, by you continuously working towards what you got to do, the sadness disappears. So sometimes you just have to learn how to understand your situation and try to talk yourself into not having that emotion ever be a part of your current day?
Yeah, sadness is a visitor that's gonna visit you at random points in your life. It's kind of unexpected. I feel like with anger, you know the things that get you mad and the things that don't. So you know I guess you're a little bit you get a little bit more of a fair warning when it comes to anger. In regards to anger, you get a fair warning. You know this is gonna bother me, this isn't. Anyway, with sadness, it kind of just pops up in your life at random times, whether it's via tragedy, whether it be moments where, you know, life kind of gets stagnant. You
Mm-hmm.
don't really see any, changes, any excitement, nothing really motivating you. You're just going through the motions every day. You're doing the same thing. Your life is, stuck on repeat. Every 24 hours is a repeat of the previous 24 hours. And moments like that, it could just creep up on you, right? And it's okay to experience sadness. We're all going to experience it. And you just have to know how to not let it cause you to damage yourself. So, anger, it's very easy to hurt other people as well as yourself. With sadness, I feel like you're the biggest, topic of worry, the point of emphasis with yourself, because sadness influences and provokes a lot of self destruction, you know, unhealthy eating habits, unhealthy physical, habits. One of mine, for example, is biting nails. I got a nasty habit of biting nails. So sadness, it, it's a big proponent of self destruction. So you want to know that, you want to accept that, come to terms with that. And then you want to battle that. And it's a slow battle, but it's worth taking the time on how to, on learning how to win that battle. So, for example, one of the things I like to do is times where sadness do creep up on me, negative, emotions that put me down, that make me, I'm not really a fan of using the word depressed, but, they're kind of hand in hand, sadness and depression. A long period of sadness is defined as depression. Anyway, you have to be aware of the things that you could change to combat that. So if sadness just creep up on you and you can't do nothing about that, learn how to encourage yourself positively to reinforce your mindset in those moments. So I'm gonna give you an example of, if you know there's certain hours of the day. For example, this happens a lot of us, whether we like it or not. This is a fact. This is a scientific fact. Through the night, it's so much more common to experience negative emotions and feelings and thoughts in your own head about your own self and about your outlook on life during the hours of the night.
Of course.
During where the sun is not out, where everything around you is quiet, there's not a lot of motion, a lot of activity with other people, nothing's really going on. So what I'm saying is that's a little factor of sadness that you could point out, like, okay, usually I go the first 14 hours of the day
Fine.
fine. And then sadness just creeps up on me
At night.
in the last hour or two before I put my head to rest. So what you could do is you can start from there, for example, and figure out what you can do to maybe sleep an hour earlier, maybe do something that strictly puts you in a good mood, a positive mindset before those hours creep up on you. Maybe you're used to being on your phone a lot. This is a big cause. Social media, technology, all these little distractions, they play a much bigger role into encouraging and provoking the sadness in you, and than what we give credit for. A lot of people think it's not a big deal. I promise you, if you spend that last 2 hours before you put your head to rest, before you turn your brain off for however long you sleep for, turn your eyes off to the social media, your ears off to the social media, kind of zone in and take that, you know, two last hour. You can stick to an hour, but anyway, take those last moments of your day to yourself, appreciating, your own life, what's, being thankful for what you have, feeding yourself positivity is what I'm trying to say. Whatever it is that brings you positivity, feed yourself those things immediately before that episode of sadness. And Look, honestly, sadness is probably harder to deal with than, at least I feel this way, than anger, because anger is kind of avoidable. It's kind of, like I said, you get a fair warning. Sadness is one of those things that you get down on yourself, you get unsure, uncertain of, you lose confidence in yourself, you start losing hope, you start seeing yourself in a bad light. So I honestly think like this is a little bit more harder than the anger, but it's doable and you don't need anybody else to really help you. You just need to find a little next little nuances in your day and your mood swings, and you'll be just fine.
I say I do agree with you on that. Sadness is kind of harder to deal with because I would say this: anger is more sporadic, sadness is more longevity. Because you can be sad for a longer period of time than you are angry. People, yes, you have some people that are angry for a longer period of time, but it's usually a trigger for most people for something that sporadically happens. Sadness can happen for a whole month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on how your tolerance is towards sadness. Because say if somebody passes away in your close circle or in your family, you can have that sadness for a longer period of time than what you would be angry if somebody was to curse you out. So in anger, well, in sadness, I would say this is one thing that I would tell most guys to do, and this is what I try to do myself. And this is a little bit of weird because sometimes you got to be a little crazy to accomplish certain things in your life, or to get over certain things in your life, or to, how do I say, build your tolerance level. This is one thing that I do. What weather do you associate with sadness and depression?
A rainstorm and, cloudy day, gloomy day with cold weather and rain.
So in those days of it being cold, it being rainy, it being gloomy outside, I force myself, I don't care how I feel, I force myself to be the most productive during those days. So if it's raining outside, I go outside and I go run. I don't let that stop me. I go outside and go run. I go work out. I still do the things that are necessary for me to do. What I would do in a day that is bright outside, is energetic. If you're able to still operate at somewhat peak efficiency during rain, during a rainstorm, that will build your tolerance up so high because it's telling yourself subconsciously that regardless of whatever I am being put up against, I'm going to get through it. And for most people to operate in the rain is slim to none. People want to be under a shelter. People want to be close knit. And the people that are really ultra successful are the ones that can operate at any time of the day, at any weather. If it's snowing outside, you're still going outside and doing what you got to do. If it's raining outside, you're still going outside and doing what you got to do. If it's sunny outside, it doesn't matter. I'm still going outside and doing what I got to do. So if you want to build tolerance, and like I said, this is a kind of a crazy way to do it, go out running in a rainstorm. Once you build your tolerance to not be afraid or not be feeling some type of way of you running out of running towards a rainstorm or whatever, everything else becomes easier. When you're down, you're gonna be like, oh, this is nothing. I went running for 5 miles in the rain. It was cold. I was shivering. I still did it. So you got to find those little things that builds your tolerance when you're angry and when you're sad and all these things. The main source of everything that we're saying today is to learn to build your tolerance for the emotions that you have. And that is the better way that you get to control them. And you can put them towards being productive. Is there anything that you want to say to the viewers?
Yeah, basically, when you're trying to build a life of longevity, you want to, of meaning, of significance. People who are at their peak, physically, mentally, emotionally, usually, or I don't even want to say usually, I could go as far as saying all of them have mastered the art of using their mind versus using their emotions. and letting their mind decide really what makes more sense versus their emotions creeping up on them and then dictating what their following course of action is. So it's a big part of our life. Nobody's saying just dismiss your emotions and ignore and brush it off, but you want to be able to control them responsibly, productively, in a healthy manner, and instead of allowing sadness to, destroy you and to make you destroy what you got going, making you destroy your own self, what you got going on, and anger doing the same thing and ruining what your relationships between you and people that you've once loved and respected. Instead of doing those things, take the time out, take the effort, put in the little moments of unwillingness to be patient. Force yourself to be patient in those moments. Try it out, and I promise you'll see a lot more better days. Go running in the rain. Train yourself to perform at the same level consistently, regardless of the outside factors, regardless of whatever comes your way, whatever's thrown at you, and try to master yourself as a person, and try to be able to be a person who, instead of being looked at as this person is volatile and unpredictable, you want to be that person that when people speak on you, when people think of you, they're like, he's always composed, he's always cool, he's always calm, he's always collected, or he or she for the ladies out there, and they always got their mind on right, and they never act erratically, sporadically, and in a threatening, damaging manner. And hopefully, you get the best results out of the efforts that you put in other facets of life.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't take anything out of what we're saying, when it comes to controlling your emotions, first you have to understand yourself, understand your triggers, and then learn how to, again, calm yourself, transfer that energy into something productive, and eventually get to release your emotions somehow. So, in a case of being angry, you want to learn how to release it, possibly through physical activity. That's the best way. And then when it comes to being sad, the best way to release your sadness is to let it all out. Sometimes you gotta cry. Sometimes you have to cry to yourself alone, get it all out. Understand that this is only a very small fraction of your life, and everybody has to go through with it. And then you learn to go about your day, because at the end of the day, you are the person that needs to go out and get to whatever you need to do. Don't let your emotions control you. Be the one that controls your emotion. This has been another episode of the Justin No podcast, where we make knowledge your strongest weapon, guys. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. We are only here to help you guys get better as individuals. And if you're listening to this on any of the podcasts, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Apple Music, please give us a follow. We're just trying to give you value for every single day that you listen to our podcast. By the way, everyone be great and keep going towards your goals.
Thank you guys for stopping by. We hope you have a blessed rest of your day. And like he said, if you're working on your anger, working on your sadness, leave a comment, like, subscribe, share with us, talk to us. We're here.
It's been a good one, people.
Peace.
Peace.